This industry, I think for a long time, has been very reliant on staff to sell these procedures, right? But you're not hiring these staffers as salespeople. They're caregivers, they're injectors, they're nurses and estheticians. So if we can provide the content that starts this conversation at the point of care, then your staff can jump in and they can educate and they can convert the business.
Hello, welcome to the Technology of Beauty. My name is Dr. Grant Stevens, and I have my special guest, Mr. Nick Magruder, here today. He flew all the way in from Kansas City for this program here, filming in Manhattan Beach, California. The Technology of Beauty welcomes the movers and shakers of the aesthetic business, and Nick certainly qualifies for that. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Grant. Good to be here.
It's great to have you.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. When did you get into the aesthetic space?
Yeah, sure. So I guess right before aesthetics, I studied finance, and I was a Series 7 stockbroker for about 30 minutes before 9/11 hit in 2000. And you fast forward a couple of years, I got into sales, and I ended up in the island of Hilton Head, South Carolina, and I was slinging copiers with my protected territory on the island of Hilton Head. And I decided to come back home to the Midwest and got an opportunity to interview to get into the industry. I spent a couple of years with Cynosure. This is when Smart Lipo was kind of coming up.
Sure.
And then I got an opportunity to join the Reliant team, if you can remember when Fraxel was coming up. So remember the blue dyes of Fraxel, and kind of bringing that whole new approach to resurfacing to market. So
Yes.
That was a lot of fun. That's kind of where I cut my teeth. And that Reliant actually kind of was acquired by Solta, and we introduced Thermage and Clear and Brilliant and some other great brands. So that's spent about 10 years with Solta before the Valiant acquisition.
When you were at Reliant, did you work with Dennis Condon?
Yes, he was there about on his way out, but he kind of set the framework together for a great run.
Right, I'm hoping to have him on the show. Did you also happen to work with Clint Carnell when you went to Solta?
Clint was the one that brought that whole Solta group together.
Yes.
And he's been a great mentor and great partner to us at FriendMedia, but also a great mentor for me at a personal level. So he's, big fan.
He's certainly a titan in this industry, and
course.
he was one of our guests in an earlier program.
Great.
And he's one of my co-founders of Orange Twist and the CEO of Hydrofacial. So then when you left Solta, well, when did you leave Solta and where did you go to next?
Well, so Solta was acquired by Valiant Pharmaceuticals,
Yes.
right? So this was maybe 2014 or so, and I made it a couple years, and I was in a leadership role there at Solta under the Valiant umbrella. So we got to kind of see what all these kind of brands look like, all these sub-brands under a large umbrella, which is really interesting. And it really kind of set the stage for the opportunity that we found at FriendMedia on cross-promoting all these brands and providing the education. In 2016, that's when I left Valiant. So I left a company that had maybe 19,000 employees to a company that had 9 employees with FriendMedia in the Bay Area.
So you're the CEO of FriendMedia, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And were you there at the very beginning of FriendMedia?
FriendMedia was established late 2014, so a little bit before I arrived. They were really founded as a tech company, and they focused in cloud-based content management systems.
Okay.
At the time, they were getting a little bit of a footprint in the educational space. They were doing screens that were doing wayfinding and menu boards and things like that for universities and schools. I was introduced through a mutual friend of ours, actually, Aubrey Rankin, and he introduced me. I did some consulting for FriendMedia. I kind of showed them what this would like for health, what this would look like for healthcare and specifically aesthetics. And around late 2016, we decided to pivot the whole business to medical aesthetics and really try to work on our use case and a big win there before we think about really expanding back out to other markets.
And is it based in the Bay Area or Kansas City?
So it founded in the Bay Area in Pleasanton. In the beginning part of last year, we decided to move our commercial team to Kansas City. So we opened up our first office, and our commercial team, our customer success and sales team all sits with me there in Kansas City.
Okay. Can you tell our listeners and our viewers just what FriendMedia is? What do you do?
Yeah, in a nutshell, we really try to solve a couple things, but we focus on activating aesthetic consumers at the point of care. So we're an in-practice marketing platform. Essentially, what we help our providers do is we have something similar to like an Amazon Fire Stick. It connects to the back of the TV, connects to a very easy to use dashboard, and then it allows providers like yourself to tell your story. So you can upload your best before and after photos and promotions and new offerings. We've also gone out to industry, and we allow industry to host all their latest and greatest content. So rather than providers going to a website to remember a user ID and password to access all the content, it sits in the cloud. It's a very easy drag and drop. So our providers can create a unique playlist, and that can be sent to a TV in real time. So it's all cloud-based, it's all real time, and it's very simple, for the providers and for industry to participate.
So this is intended to educate the patient consumer that is in when they're in the exam rooms or the treatment areas or the reception areas. How does this work?
Sure. So we started a couple years ago. We really honed in on the lobby or reception area. And you think about, there's all this great content out there, but you walk into a traditional aesthetic provider's lobby or reception area, most of the time they have a TV. A lot of the time that TV is playing Judge Judy, or it's playing the local news, right? Or it's playing maybe a loop from one of the brands from like 15 years ago, and it's never current. So that's what we wanted to solve. So we really, our first couple hundred customers, all about the lobby TV. And now, we'll kind of get into COVID and how we've made some changes later. But, now we're getting a lot of feedback from our providers that the waiting room is now kind of in the exam room as well. And there's still additional wait time there, but they're kind of shuffled back there to the exam room. So we have another opportunity to educate and engage and, drive that cross-selling opportunity.
Do you provide the televisions, or do you provide the content? How's that look for the doctor?
Good question. Yeah, so you could think of us as kind of an Uber model. So we don't have a fleet of cars. We don't have a fleet of content. We're not creating content. So what we do is we, one, make it very easy for the providers to upload and manage their content. And that content could be dynamic streams of their Instagram or Facebook. It could be our app where they're using the before and afters. We also partner with industry, and they supply, their latest and greatest campaigns and before and afters, right? So all of that sits at their fingertips in the cloud, and then the providers have the power just to drag and drop that and create a playlist or a message that's in line with, their practice and the things that they want to promote.
So the doctor adjusts the content, or one of his staff members?
Yeah, it can be adjusted in real time from the dashboard. And most of our users are coming in, a couple times a month to update with new offerings or, updated reviews or before and after, photos, things like that. But it's all in real time, and it's very easy for anyone, staffers to jump in and manage the content.
Do you create any content in Kansas City, or do you have any studios, or how's that work? I understand that we have industry content, and the doctors have their own before and afters and maybe their own content. Do you provide a content service, or do you send someone to an outside content service?
We do not. We've made a decision not to create any content to this point in-house. We have a lot of industry partners that are more on the creative side that can go on site and shoot a nice video with the providers, patient testimonials, things like that, and we can upload that to the platform on their behalf. But we have not, we're really kind of focused on scaling and getting to several physicians before we want to go in and really offer more of a content, upsell opportunity to them.
How many clients do you have now today?
So today we are active in about 650 medical aesthetic providers. We've got around 2,500 screens that are active, and that's earlier you mentioned, do we provide the TVs? We don't provide the TV. We provide the hardware that allows the TVs to play our content.
Okay.
We are also app based, so we are on iPads. So providers that have staff running around the office with iPads, they can access our app, and they can have all this great content at their fingertips to share with the patients and kind of walk them through what these procedures are like. And then we just introduced a new kiosk that has a hand sanitizer function in it, and also displays content, and obviously kind of relevant in this post-COVID world where we're trying to navigate patient safety as well as education.
So I'm going to take a moment for our viewers and our listeners to understand that a little bit better. So they have a kiosk, and they installed it in my office and also in our Orange Twist office. And imagine a vertical hand sanitizer, and the patients, and there's a screen on it, and the patients are watching this content, this video content that's been determined by the practitioner, in this case myself, in conjunction with Nick and his people. And the patients come in, and of course they get their temperature checked, their pulse oximetry, they get a questionnaire, and they also are encouraged to wash their hands, so they can go to the restroom, wash their hands, or they can use the hand sanitizer, which most people do. And they put their hand underneath this hand sanitizer, which we've all done now for how many months? And they're looking at the moving images, and they wash their hands, and they sit down. And I can't tell you how many times people have watched Cool Sculpting or Cool Tone or the things that are loaded on mine, and then when they come back, they ask me about it. So I would applaud your kiosk as very, very creative.
Thank you.
Was that your idea?
This was an idea that I had, and we're always trying to be creative. But
yes,
we also,
I know you are.
We also want to be stay in scope and stay in our lane, and not to try to do too much too fast as a young startup. So, but our manufacturer partners were very quick to bring us this new technology. The content fits really well, fits right into the patient safety protocols that are being rolled out all over these practices. So far it's been a great fit. We've got 25 of them in the marketplace right now, and really kind of scratching the surface. I think there's a lot of opportunity to place these around the U.S.
That's great. I think he's a genius. What are things are on the horizon for FriendMedia? What's the future look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we're still a small team, but we're really focused right now on our brand sponsorships with industry. So you think about industry right now and some of the challenges that they're going to have getting to these consumers. If you walk through your office, likely a lot of the patient trifold brochures, right, have been removed, and there's not a lot of not a lot of access to the reps, to get to you and talk about business building activities. So how can we help industry get to these consumers and advance that conversation about what's next in the continuum? So we have had tons of feedback from our clients that they wanted us to really support more touchless or touch-free marketing features. So, for example, I mentioned the exam room. So now when you go into the exam room, you can use the FriendMedia remote just like you would Netflix or like a Roku stick, and you can quickly dial up your favorite brands, and you can play these digital brochures versus handing them a patient trifold piece of paper. We can load these brochures on the screens with QR codes that can take them to unique landing pages to sign up for rewards or to leave you a review or follow you on Instagram, wherever we want to take them to kind of continue the educational process and engagement. So that's kind of where we're going, is kind of all things touchless and helping kind of navigate this this patient experience, not only now but as things come out of this pandemic, and all things I think kind of digital start to explode for providers like yourself.
Who controls this remote you're describing? Is the patient controlling it, or is the help or the nurse or the assistant, or is it the physician? Who? I'm sure any of them can, but
sure.
What's the ideal person to control that?
I think later, if you imagined a patient strapped in for a cycle of Cool Sculpting treatments, they could click through and they could watch some of these treatments. But right now we have it really kind of teed up for the staffers. So a staffer brings a patient back. You kind of know by seeing their chart and what they've done in the past, what they might be likely interested in. So the providers can greet them, get them settled, and then toggle to the brands that they want to highlight, and then walk away. And I think what that does is, well, let me back up. This industry, I think for a long time, has been very reliant on staff to sell these procedures, right? But you're not hiring these staffers as salespeople. They're caregivers, they're injectors, they're nurses and estheticians. So if we can provide the content that starts this conversation at the point of care, then your staff can jump in and they can educate and they can convert the business. So that's the really, the one thing that we focus on is starting that conversation, in enabling the staffers to advance, the offerings and the education on what could be next in the continuum.
So tell me, what is your source of revenue? Does the doctor pay you? Does industry pay you? Is it a monthly charge? Is it based on how many televisions? How does that look for, let's say, for the physician? Let's start with the physician.
So for the physician, so our first 100 customers, it all was subscription based. So our average customer spends about $100 a month with us. And that allows that's a subscription to our software platform and allows them to control the content in real time. So we are continuing to build that subscription business. About a year ago, we started really focusing on the brand sponsorship part of our business. So you mentioned Hydrofacial and some of the other brands that we are value add partners for them. So for instance, Hydrofacial, sells a new device and they can include our FriendMedia marketing kit as a value add service to help close the deal and get the deal done, and answers that question, where are my patients going to come from? And then two, it provides that pull through, strategy. So we've been, our last probably, 80% of our customers are coming from industry as a part of these value add programs.
80%?
80%.
That's fantastic. What other industries are you working with besides Hydrofacial?
Within industry, so Hydrofacial was our first. We did a big, about 500, pilot launch with them. We have brought on Cynosure and Candela. We partner with Cutera. We partner with Nutrafol, the hair supplement.
Yep.
We partner with MERS and their team. And a lot more on the horizon here, but
ones you can't tell me about?
Not just yet.
Are they beta sites or are they contracts, or what's that look like for you as a company?
What do you mean?
Are they just checking you out and doing a limited install to see if it really works? Or are you trying to cut deals with industry?
I think a little bit of both. I think we're in this kind of final stages of feeling each other out. And now, everything that was relevant 3 months, 5 months ago may or may not be relevant now. And, I think industry as well as us, we have to go through our checks and balances to make sure, we're in line with what industry needs. And so far it looks really good. So I think this, Q4 will be a good, quarter for us to start accelerating that, those relationships that you speak of.
What a perfect intro to my next question. So we're talking about the future now. And I know you came all the way from Kansas City, and I saw a bulge in your shirt pocket. I know you brought your crystal ball. So can you share with us what your crystal ball shows over the next 5 and 10, and maybe even go out to 15 years? You've been in this industry long enough. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. What do you think it's going to look like 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Yeah, sure. I think I can speak to where I think our company is going, and then where I think maybe the industry is heading as well. It is obviously a crystal ball, and we all would love to know exactly what that looks like. But for us, I think we're really in a great spot to start building our business out across North America through these partnerships that we talked about. We envision ourselves getting from this 600 customer level to 6,000 and 10,000 within aesthetics with the right partners. We picked medical aesthetics because of my background in knowing the industry. We think there's application to take this to dental, to vision. We have interest from vet hospitals. So
I was in veterinary, right?
Lots of other industries to take this. So that's a big upside for us. I think the industry, I think we started to see some of the consolidation, and I think that will continue to happen. I think, in 10 years, instead of having, 5,500 booths at ASPS, there could be, 3 big tents. I don't think it'll happen that fast, but I think consolidation will continue to happen where these larger groups are looking for really good brands to put in their Rolodex. And then I think we can always, continue to be a value add where the more brands they pick up, the more cross-selling opportunities there are and, needs, to enhance the patient experience and education and engagement to, kind of cross-pollinate all of those, opportunities.
Well, I would agree with everything you've just said. And as you know, I have enjoyed FriendMedia in my own office, in my reception area when I had one. Now I don't have it, in the patient exam rooms. And it has certainly been very effective and nimble and has eliminated my paper goods. And I think in this post-COVID world, that's going to be even more important.
Sure.
To your point earlier today, the FriendMedia approach eliminates the exposure. It's like a touchless marketing system for both the doctor as well as industry, and providing education to the patient and creating questions on the part of the patient or client. And then they ask the providers, be it myself or my extenders. So I'm very, very bullish on your company,
Good.
FriendMedia.
Well, it's funny, Grant. When I brought this to you a couple of years ago, the first thing you brought to my attention was this cool sculpting study you did. And you know the numbers better, but it was, obviously you're treating tons of cool sculpting patients, and the number was maybe 63% of these patients had never been to your practice.
Correct.
And even a bigger number had never done a medical aesthetic procedure.
Correct.
In the past. So that's close, right?
That's very close. We wrote that up in August 2013 in the Aesthetic Surgery Journal, and I think it was 63% had never been in the practice, and a much larger number had never had an aesthetic procedure ever. So they were totally neophytes. It's like they were dropped off of Mars or something,
Right.
and they had no idea what I did for a living.
Sure.
It was crazy. And the interesting thing is, when we kept them in the practice and took care of them and provided the non-surgical body contouring, 40% of them were still in my practice 3 years later. That means it was a very sticky phenomena.
Sure.
They came in, they had their services, and when we looked retrospectively 3 years later, 40% were still coming in for facials, hydrofacials, injectables, lasers, and all the various other things. And over 20% of them had surgery, which again speaks to the fact that these non-surgical services in the aesthetic business can be strong and powerful attractants that then morph into surgery for the plastic surgeons and so forth. So, and education is the key. And FriendMedia certainly goes a long ways towards educating them. They sit there hooked up to their cool sculpting machines for 1 to 2 to 3 hours even, and they're reading their phones and their iPads and all the rest, but they have these moving images on the wall, and they watch the information that you and industry have provided for them at my discretion, because I get to pick what it is.
Sure.
And it's been a fabulous method of converting and cross-selling and upselling, and I applaud your efforts. I wish you the very best.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
You're
for
very
having
welcome. Well, I want to thank you, Nick, for getting on the plane. You and your wife are flying out here in this COVID world. Nick wore the mask and so forth, as did I. I want you to notice we're actually 7 feet apart from one another. I just got my latest test. I'm negative. And so it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. I want to thank all of you for joining us today on the Technology of Beauty, where you can hear the movers and shakers of the aesthetic world and all things beauty. Thank you very much.